Hi, my name is Diana. Welcome to this week's episode of Power IT Tech Demos. Today we will be reviewing on how to install a WordPress site on Ubuntu 20 with LAMP stack on GCP Cloud. Some of the advantages of GCP Cloud hosting include high uptime and availability. It has a promise of 99.99% uptime. And apart from that, security is assured, reliability is also assured because of the network of servers. A LAMP stack is basically a group of open source software that is installed to enable a server to host dynamic websites. LAMP is an acronym of Linux OS, Apache for the web server, MySQL for the database, PHP for the programming language. And as we all know, WordPress is one of the most popular open source content management system that is used to build dynamic custom websites. Yeah, so let's get right in. The first thing I will do, in my terminal window, I've SSH'd in the Ubuntu server. I have a couple of servers which are up and running, so I have SSH'd into my US VM, and I'm going to the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to update the latest versions of software that I can possibly get. Yeah, so I will type in sudo apt update so that I can update to the latest version. Yeah, so the next thing I'm going to do is to upgrade the list of packages. I will type in sudo apt upgrade to upgrade the list of packages. It will prompt me if I want to continue. I will say yes. After our packages have been upgraded, I'm going to install my first software, which is Apache. So I will say sudo apt install Apache 2. I will say yes. Yeah, so the next thing we're going to do is a spot check right away to confirm that whatever we've done so far is correct. And I will take the external IP address, and then I will paste it in my web server. Then I will test if the installation of my first software, which was Apache 2, was successful, and yes, it works. Yeah, so the next step is to now that we have our server up and running, we can now install our database to store and manage data for our site. So I will type in sudo apt install my SQL server. Yeah, so this will install my database. I will say yes. It's done. So the next thing I'm going to do is to run a security script to remove some insecure default settings. So I will type in sudo MySQL secure installation. Then it will ask me if I want to validate my password component. I will say yes. The password strength, I will say true, which is strong, and then I will type in my password. Then I will retype the password, and so it will ask me if I wish to continue with the password provided. Yes. Remove anonymous users. Yes. Remove test database. Yes. Reload privilege tables. Yes. all done. So basically what I'm trying to do here is to prompt the database to remove some anonymous users and test the database, and to disable remote logins, and to load new rules so that MySQL can pick the changes I'm going to make. So I'm going to log in into my SQL console. And the first thing I'm going to do in my SQL console, I'm going to create a database, and I will name the database test. And then after creating the database, I'm going to create a user who will use the database that I've created, and I'm going to name the user admin. Then I will give the user a password. Let me just say admin user at 1 2 3 4 5. Yeah, so yeah, we are trying to create our user, and we've given our user a password that the user will use to log in. Then the next thing we're going to do, we will let our database user to have access to the database by granting permissions to the user. So we say grant all on. So we have let our database user to have access to the database, and then we will flash privileges so that the current instance of the MySQL knows about the recent changes. So we will flash and we will exit the MySQL console. So the next thing we're going to do is to install PHP to process code so that it can be able to display dynamic content to users. So we will sudo apt install PHP, the Apache and SQL extension. Okay, we have an error, so it's going to prompt me, and I'll say yes. Next, we go to our public HTML directory, which is available by default in most LAMP servers. So it's found in the var www /HTML. And if we list, we will see that it has an index.html file. This is the default public HTML directory that comes installed in Apache. So we are going to create a virtual host for the website. When using Apache, you can create virtual hosts to encapsulate configuration details and host more than one domain from a single server. So Apache by default has one server block that is enabled in the var www /HTML directory. So instead of modifying it, we are going to create a directory structure within the var /www. So we will sudo make directory in the var www WordPress. We'll name our directory WordPress, and we're going to assign ownership of the directory to reference the current user. So we're going to change ownership so that it recursively references the current user. Yeah, so the next thing we're going to do, we are going to open a new configuration file in Apache. Apache sites available to tell Apache where our website is, and before that we're going to have a look at the sites available. So we'll go to cd etc Apache 2. We'll look at the sites which are available, and if we ls into them, we will see is the default.conf, and there's the default ssl.conf. Yeah, so if we open the the default, we will see that it points to the document root, which is the default public HTML directory. So we will just copy this code and exit the public HTML directory, and we are going to open our new configuration file, and then we will paste the command, but tell Apache to where our website is. We point to our virtual host WordPress. Then we will save and we will close. So the next thing we're going to do is to enable our new virtual host, and then it will say it's enabling the WordPress site, and then we will disable the default configuration so that it doesn't override our virtual host. So and then the next thing we're going to do is to test if our configuration doesn't have errors, and it will tell us that our syntax is okay. So we're going to reload Apache to take the changes. The next thing we're going to do is to download WordPress. With our server configured, we can now download and set up WordPress. So the first thing we're going to do is to change it to a writable temporal directory. The first thing we're going to do is to download WordPress from the internet. We will use the curl command. The next thing we're going to do is to decompress the WordPress files that we just downloaded because they come bundled. So the next thing we're going to do, we are going to copy the sample configuration file to the file name that WordPress reads. And then we're going to create an upgrade directory so that WordPress doesn't run into permission issues. And then we will copy the entire contents of the directory to our document root. The next step is we're going to configure the WordPress directory so that we can adjust the permissions and ownership, so that when the user that Apache web server runs as will need read and write permissions. So we're going to change ownership. And the next thing we're going to do, we're going to open the WordPress configuration file so that we can modify the database connections. And so we're going to change the database configurations. The name of the database was test, and our user was admin. The password that the user will use to log into our database was, and then we will save it, and then we will exit. So we're going to confirm if our WordPress site is up. Yeah, and it was successful. So we're going to continue in English. We are going to put the needful site information. We'll call this a lamp site. The username will say admin. The password we can say, we can input the same password. Yeah, so you can input your email, then install WordPress. Okay, I need to input my email. And then I will install my WordPress site. Then I will log in. Our username was admin, and then our password was then we will log in to our dashboard, and yes, it worked. Yeah, so Thank you so much for following. Like the video, share with others, subscribe. Thank you. Till next time. Bye.